Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani said the fraud was widespread.
This is not a singular voter fraud in one state. This pattern repeats itself in a number of states, almost exactly the same pattern, which to any experienced investigator, prosecutor, would suggest that there was a plan from a centralized place to execute these various acts of voter fraud.
And attorney Sidney Powell talked about votes appearing out of nowhere.
Talking about some massive straight lines up in the vote tallies in the middle of the night after they've supposedly stopped counting. And that's when the Dominion operators went in and injected votes and changed the whole system.
Powell spoke of voting software being manipulated to change votes from President Trump to Joe Biden. Conservative Fox host Tucker Carlson pointed out Thursday night that Powell has said similar things recently, but when his show asked for evidence to back up her claims, they got none.
But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page.
As for the question of evidence, it came up in Thursday's press conference. The Trump team said they aren't showing their proof yet. That will come in court. In other developments Thursday, Georgia finished its audit of the presidential race and confirmed Joe Biden won by more than 12,000 votes. The state also found no evidence of widespread fraud. The Trump campaign responded that Georgia's audit had included illegal ballots and asked for what it called an honest recount. President Trump is set to meet with Republican leaders of the Michigan legislature today at the White House to possibly discuss appointing electors who would support him. For now, his legal team will move forward with the challenges in court. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
Joining us to talk about allegations of voter fraud is Joe Collins, who ran for Congress against a 30-year incumbent, Maxine Waters, in California's 43rd Congressional District. He's speaking out because two men from his district have been charged with filing more than 8,000 fraudulent voter registration applications for homeless people. Well, Joe, thank you, and welcome to 700 Club Interactive.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Well, tell us what difference would 8,000 votes have meant in your race against Maxine Waters?
You know, I think it's more along the lines of the voter integrity. You know, you have to be registered. You have to have an address. You have to have ID to be able to vote in California and the United States as well. But, you know, when you look at the numbers when it comes to voting, every single Democrat has about 70 to 72% of the vote, and every single Republican has about 28 to 30%. Now, this trend has been going on for a very long time, and now it's starting to draw a lot of suspicion when you talk about voter fraud. Gavin Newsom sent everyone mail-in ballots, and that's kind of illegal, and the judge had filed an injunction against him to stop him from doing that, and he did it anyway. So these are things that need to be investigated.
Why did you get involved? I mean, of all the seats to go after, Maxine Waters seems to be kind of secure. And why would you take her on?
Well, I'm from South Central Los Angeles, and I do not like the way the district has been going for a very long time. When you talk about security, anybody seated secured unless they've been challenged in a proper manner, and that's something that we've been able to do. We're going to challenge our election results, and we're going to see what the proper numbers are, because I do not believe the numbers that she got are actually valid numbers. I think that we've had a lot of fraud in our election process as well.
How widespread do you think this is? I mean, if we're seeing, I mean, these are indictments, so there is enough proof to get an indictment. We'll see about conviction, but this is an indictment. How widespread do you think this practice is when you see 8,000 votes for homeless just in your district? How widespread do you think this is?
I mean, I think it goes beyond just homeless people voting. I think it goes to the extent that, you know, people are actually opening up ballots and throwing things away. We see it on social media. The only people who are ignoring it is the mainstream media, and it's kind of a disappointment. Even when they called the election for California, they were still counting votes. I think they had about 10 million votes to be counted when they called California. They're still counting votes today. The media doesn't call elections. The Electoral College certifies the election results. And so I think that they should wait until the results are certified. All the court cases have been ran through the courts, and we get a legitimate determination on who the president of the United States is and who won the races across the United States.
I've frankly heard most of my life about, dead people voting or people going out and paying people for votes. I've heard about made-up ballots. I keep hearing about this. Back in 2000, we had the national horror of the hanging chads, but we don't seem to have done anything about it. What do you think should be done to keep elections fair, free, open, but most importantly, with integrity, that there really are honest elections?
In my opinion, the same way you can open up a bank account should be the same way that you vote. You need an ID, you need your social security number and an address, just like anything else. I think just implementing those three things would secure our elections more than what they are right now.
Why do you think it's so hard to get to that? Because some states actually have that you have to have a valid driver's license. In order to get a driver's license, you need a social security number. I mean, you've got that. Why is it so hard to make that the law of the land?
Well, in my opinion, I would just say that common sense isn't so common. And now you're dealing with issues like this, which, people should start pushing to get more security in our elections.
Okay. You were running as a Republican in a heavily Democratic district. You made some inroads. You're certainly shining a spotlight on voter fraud. Will you come back again in 2 years? Are you going to keep going at it?
Yeah, our election isn't over yet. They're still counting votes. We're going to contest the election. I don't mind losing, but I do mind being cheated. And if we, lost legitimately, then yes, we will run again. And I think this time we have a better shot at winning. All
right. Well, good luck to you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Well, no, actually, before we go, I got a viewer question. I forgot this. Rick on Facebook says, why are there no cameras used in every city of every state during ballot counting? Why were there no cameras watching all the entrances and exit doors in the secured storage areas in all ballot counting rooms? You got an answer to that one?
That's a very good question. I do not have an answer for.
Okay. We got Kathy on Instagram. If voter fraud is discovered, what's the action plan moving forward? What will they do with the votes that were backdated? What about the ones that were thrown in the trash? Will voters have to vote? Will we actually have a new election, voting in person in those disputed elections? You've got some real hands-on experience with this. What's going to happen in your case if this 8,000 votes are reversed out? Are you going to see a new election? What's the end game for you?
We're going to try to push for a new election. And if we can't get a new election, then, we have to hold the county registrar's office, accountable for their lack of transparency and their lack of dedication to ensuring that we have a legitimate election.
Okay. Well, again, thanks. Thanks for being willing to put yourself out there. I always admire anyone today who's willing to say, I'm going to run, especially if they're going to run against a 30-year incumbent. The deck is definitely stacked against you. But you're finding out it's more than just stacked. There's actual fraud going on, and you've got an indictment. So stay strong. And thanks again for being with us. You can always get the latest updates on the election and these various charges. And it's pretty amazing what's being uncovered in some of these congressional districts, the so-called down ballots. For this kind of indictment to already be out there in the state of California is pretty amazing. But that's what's happening in the United States. And you can get informed by downloading our CBN News app. It's available on all those different devices, any tablet, any smartphone, any smart TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and you can get the latest notifications from CBN News.